Apologies for coming in a little bit too late, but all the same, we're here. And as promised, we have specialists who are going to address the aspect of GMO, organic foods, their comparison, their goodness, their disadvantages. And we also take a look at food security. We are hoping to get a hold of Dr. Peter Mukaya, who's going to give us, a little bit of the technical perspective of it later on. But importantly, we start off with Emily Wahome, who's a consultant nutritionist, to take us through this session. Emily, how are you? Good to have you.
Thank you so much.
Looking good, and we're grateful that you're here this morning.
Yeah.
All right, so we're all about nutrition, and nutrition is key. Most of the Mondays we do nutrition, and today we base our focus on GMOs and organic foods. And you being the specialist, we'd love for you to start off, first of all, by introducing yourself some more, and even telling us, the difference between these two and the importance of them anyway.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
My name is Emily Wahome.
Right.
Happy to be here this morning. I am a nutritionist by profession. I'm an educator. I lecture nutrition and dietetics, and I love imparting knowledge. Apart from that, I'm a mother, I'm a wife.
Awesome.
And I love impacting the young people.
Right.
So nutrition is very key, and I'm very passionate about it. So anytime I have something I can share to help people live better, healthier lives, and adopt healthier, nutritious meals and diet, then I'm always happy to share that knowledge.
Yes,
So
and we all agree that nutrition is huge and large. That's why today we focus briefly on the GMO. So yes, what exactly is it? And the difference between it and the organic foods?
Yeah, so for a long time we've been having a debate. I'm sure most of us have heard about the term GMO. Most of us have heard the term organic foods. But sometimes maybe we may not really know the direction to take. Is it really GMO? Is it really organic foods? So majorly, maybe we start by seeing what is this organic foods, what is GMO. So basically GMO, it's a food whose the genetic material, which is basically the DNA, has been altered such that it doesn't occur in its natural form. So maybe traditionally, we are aware that the crops that we are having, they are occurring in their natural form. The way they are, that is how they were. And probably the modification that was done is what we know was called grafting. But now through biotechnology, or what we call genetic engineering, scientists have come up with other scientific forms of ways to modify crops. Like if I give an example, we have the first crop I think that was modified is the tomato that we commonly know that we use for cooking. And what we're trying to do is to make the tomato have a longer shelf life, because they get spoiled quite fast. So they modified it for that. So it was taking longer to ripen, and therefore it was staying on the shelf for a longer period of time. So you find genetic modification majorly is being done for increasing shelf life, increasing productivity. There's also some crops, like for example, if I would give an example of a crop that has been modified for nutritional purposes, is what is called golden rice, but it's not yet in the market. It has not yet been approved to come into our shelves. But what they were trying to do, the scientists, they were trying to improve the beta carotene, which is a vitamin A, because we know that most of us, or most nations, rice is their staple food. And vitamin A is one of the vitamins that we have deficiencies in, and it is very key in boosting the immunity. So the scientists were using the GM technology, they were modifying that rice to have more of vitamin A, but it's not yet in the market yet, because it's still going through the process.
All right, before we even go to the organic aspect of it, then what would want to ask the GM, mode of course ensuring that these crops are staying longer in the shelves, are good enough, you incorporate some more nutrients in it. What are the dangers, or what are the goodness of us getting to that point? Because then it's something that has been adapted across, and it's hugely being incorporated in our meals and all that, and our crops out there.
Yeah, I think what I can say is that there is a lot of research that still needs to continue being done. Because if you look at the research that has been done so far, there are some dangers that have been put there. Like for example, because of that altering the gene of this particular crop is not appearing in its natural form, there is risk of allergic reactions. Like if something that is introduced into a crop that was not there before, and I consume that particular food, and I'm allergic to that particular product,
right,
then I'm likely to have an allergic reaction, as opposed to when I ate it in its natural form, probably I wouldn't get that.
The allergen.
Then there's, yes, the allergen. So allergic reactions is one of them. Then some of the products or organisms that are used for genetic modification are bacteria and viruses.
Yeah.
So over time, scientists have been trying to look, there's issue of resistance to antibiotics, for example. Could it be because of the bacteria that sometimes is being used to modify the foods that people are consuming, such that by the time you're having an infection and you need an antibiotic, you've been consuming a lot of these bacteria and all that, then you become resistant. Yeah. Then there's a time that where there was so much discussion about GM and cancer, though we are saying there's no conclusive research, but this altering of the DNA, we need to do more research, continue doing more research to know whether really, is it posing health risk? But unfortunately, this would have to be research that is being done over a long period of time, following subjects, human subjects, the ethical issues coming, because you find that these effects are not upfront. Like I consume that food and I'm having
instantly, yes.
You know, it is something that maybe that will take years, even 10, 20, 15 years,
and you see that.
For me to see the outcome. So a lot of research need to be done. But those are some of the risks that have already been put on paper that could occur if we continue consuming the GM foods.
And is there anything positive, Eve, at all, anything positive or anything to show, when we say that we are going to consume, the genetically modified foods?
Yeah, if you look at it, most of the GM foods, in terms of productivity, the farmers have reported a higher yield when they use the genetically modified crops as opposed to the other. Then when it comes to pesticides, they use less pesticides because most of those crops are modified to be pest resistant and also resistant to diseases. When it comes to even the weeds, the time the farmers and the resources they use for weeding the farms, they are less. So in terms of even crop production costs, they go low. And I think that's the reason why when you compare the prices of GM foods and organic foods, you find the GM foods, then they have lower costs. So of course the benefits are there, but at the end of the day, I think we should also focus on the health benefits of the foods. Are they posing any health risks? Are we having the health benefits? But also when there is some research that has been done to compare the nutritional value of GM foods and organic foods, there was no really conclusive, but it has shown that majorly there's no much difference when it comes to the nutritional value. Although now the GM foods that are specifically modified to have a particular nutrient like that vitamin A, it may have a higher vitamin A content than another one that doesn't have that. But at the same time, you have other methods apart from GM. We have other methods of fortification.
Yes. All right. So speaking of GM, then the world has really adopted this, and the question then would be, does it pose any food security threats in any way? And in the long term, do we stand a chance of having more and more production processes, more and more foods, of course, to a point whereby yes, we're probably even going to enjoy surplus?
Research also has shown that the GM foods are resistant, like I've said, to pesticides, and then also the crop yield is higher. So some people have proposed that method as a way of maybe solving some of the food security issues we have. But at the same time, when you talk about food security, the food safety aspect is there. So that aspect should not be ignored. Because I may have food in plenty, but is it safe for human consumption? So those are the things that we need to put into perspective, do more research on, and maybe probably come into conclusive statements that actually this food we can genetically modify it this way if it is acceptable. It will be safe. It will give us higher crop yield. We will not use so much of pesticides on it, and even the cost of production will not be so high. And therefore, at the end of it, all the consumer will not have to give so much for them to get the product.
All right, let's talk organic then, organic foods.
So organic foods is a natural way of growing crops without the pesticides, without the fertilizers, using the natural form of all this. So over time, farmers have started adopting the organic way of farming because of reduction of toxins in the food, because most of the toxins, actually we are the ones who introduce them as humans. or they are introduced through the environment by use of chemicals like pesticides, herbicides, and all that. So the organic farming is majorly farming without any artificial or synthetic materials like pesticides and herbicides. And also, if you are using any of that, it's in natural form. Like in Kiambu, I saw some farmers growing vegetables. Instead of spraying them with the pesticides, they're using urine from rabbits.
Right.
And actually, the crops are not being invaded by pests. So you see that's a natural form of growing that particular crop. So for me, I think that if we would go that way, although our research has shown that it's a more expensive way of producing, but if it is made cost effective over time, probably then it could be an effective way.
One would then argue these are natural resources, really readily available, so to speak. Why is it then considered an expensive process in comparison to this other one?
I think it's because it has not been there for quite a long time, although traditionally farmers were using, for example, if I want to grow my crops and improve the yield, I use manure. But you see now, there were other things that were introduced over time by scientists, like fertilizers. And farmers convinced that actually if you use fertilizer, this is what is going to happen. It will even give you a higher yield. And as a farmer, I want a higher yield, especially I'm a commercial farmer, I want a higher yield so that I may be able to get more money at the end of the harvest. So I think we need to do more in the organic farming. Yeah, because the organic farmers, the pure organic farmers that are certified in Kenya, I don't think there are many. But I think it's an area that we need to explore.
Is this where we're coming from, the organic farming, and then we came to GM, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves wanting to go back to organic?
I think so, because traditionally I believe our grandmothers did not have fertilizers. Yeah, they didn't have pesticides. Probably these pests were not as many as they are today, and therefore they were using natural ways of farming.
All right, and good news here. We have Dr. Peter Mukaya joining us this morning once again. He's the CEO of Organic Consumers Alliance, and we'd love to hear from him his take on, the difference between these two and how they complement each other, especially at this point where, we're getting at the science bit of it, right? And Daktari, good morning. Hello, Daktari. I'm not able to hear Daktari again. All right, let's keep trying. Meanwhile, we'll come back to that. And then one would want to ask, how do they get to complement each other? Or at what point do they counter the value of the other? This is now organic foods and GM foods.
I think what we can say is that we need to have education. We need to have education to public that is not biased. We need to put information out here to the public. If it is this product that is GM, let the public know that this is a GM product.
Yes.
What are the benefits of this product? What could be the risks? Such that, for example, even in the supermarket, there's a GM rice and there's one that is organic. It is properly labeled. As a consumer, I'm able to make an informed decision as opposed to when it is just there, I don't know the difference between this and this. So if there's proper education about organic foods and GM foods, consumers will be able to make informed decisions.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, Daktari is here with us. Good morning, Daktari.
Good morning to you all.
Good to have you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I am here with Wahome Emily, and we're also expanding some more on this conversation on organic foods and GMOs, how they complement each other, the differences between the same, the dangers of the same, and we'd love to hear that scientific perspective of the same coming from you.
Right. Yeah, just to complement what Emily has shared.
Right.
I agree 100% with her sharing, and she's put it in the layman's language, so to say. But basically, like you've alluded to, there have been 3 transitions of safe and healthy food.
Yeah.
First, we started with what we call seeds produced or foods produced from what we call Halem seeds. Halem seed is this is basically what we call indigenous seeds that were handed over from generation to generation. that were not sold, that were not patented, that were selected based on their breed and their quality, and that were locally adapted, resilient, and not.
This connection won't allow us to have a conversation with Daktari. But all the same, we'll keep trying until we get this. If we're not successful today, then for sure we'll have Daktari again to expound some more on this. But yes, just to pick up from where he left it. And we were looking at how these two complement each other and how these two, in a way equally contradict the benefits of the other. And one would argue that in as much as we'd want to focus organic and, stay organic, it is getting expensive. It is getting almost impossible for people to be able to enjoy this gladly. What can we do to ensure that we transition ourselves back to where we were initially?
Okay, thank you so much for that. I think from where we left, we need to go back probably to where we were. I think natural is always good.
Yeah.
That is what I would say. Like, for example, if I'm growing my vegetables, for example, and we've seen people showing us even how I can grow vegetables on my own balcony. I don't need a huge farm to produce my own vegetable, for example, to consume.
Yeah.
If we approach a way in which we start producing food and wanting to produce this in a natural way as much as possible, because in Kenya, majorly, we don't have a particular food like the way we have in the US, GM food.
Yes.
What we have in Kenya is ingredients. Most of the processed food, by the way, in the market, they have GM.
Yeah.
Because most of the foods have soya. Most of the soya that is produced, like 90% is GM, is genetically modified.
All right.
Corn is another one. So you find that the ingredients of GM are in the foods that we are having in our supermarkets. But in Kenya, we don't have a food in the shelf that is labeled probably GM. But in the US, 60 to 70% of the foods on the shelf is labeled GM, and they have the organic food. So the consumer chooses. So maybe what I can say is that when I speak to the developing countries in Africa, because we have really been practicing agriculture for very long, maybe we need to look in a way in which we can go back to our natural way of producing food, because that, I think, could be the safest way of ensuring that we are reducing the toxins that is in our foods. We are making our foods more wholesome and nutritious. But of course, there are other many issues like soil degradation and pollution that has affected all this and affected even the crop yield. Because food security is not only about GM making the yield more. There's issue of climate change that has been brought up because of pollution and other things that because we've affected the environment. So probably if we look into those issues, then we may not have to really rely so much on GM for food security. There are other many ways in which we can become food secure. Yeah.
Or we're looking at an advanced stage of agriculture, an advanced stage of trade, where we conduct agriculture that, will sustain us across. And sometimes we find that we have to import, and we also have to export lots of foods, that are grown locally. So in such a scenario, then how do we come in handy and, talk of these other options that you're bringing on board that would help us still maintain the natural? What, of course, Daktari, if I have picked something, is talking about the Helians and the indigenous, the ones that we originally had, and make sure that we make the best of them, that they are able to produce numerously so that we can get surplus for export, and equally import foods that are indeed good to us as a people, as opposed to focusing much on GM.
I think we need to invest more on agriculture.
Yeah.
I feel as time went on, maybe because of industrialization, we moved from being agriculturalists to industrialists. So farmers over time also have gotten discouraged because, for example, if I produce a particular kind of food and I have used resources and then I don't have market for it, or the prices for me to sell are too low, or I don't have means or easy means to export my produce to make some income, then I get discouraged, and even I'm an entrepreneur, definitely I'll move to something else that will make me more money. So if you invest in agriculture in such a way that if I produce, I'll have market for my produce. If I produce, probably the farm inputs and all that I need will not be at very high costs, and therefore I can be able to access those farm inputs and do farming, produce food for consumption and also for commercialization, then farmers will be encouraged to do more agriculture than it is currently happening. Although we are seeing a shift, people are starting now to wanting to start moving towards agriculture. If you go back to the rural areas, people have started slowly but surely adopting to agriculture. But I think I've seen a shift in crops that are for export. Like avocado farming in the rural areas has really increased because there is market in the Asian countries and the US for the product. So you see, if there is market, the farmer is given the specification for you to have a quality product. At the end of it all, this is what you need to do. They are going to do it because at the end of the day, if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a farmer, I want to make food. So I want to make money, and therefore I'll do that. So I think we need to invest more in agriculture. We need to give more education to farmers, more education to the public about how to produce healthier foods and more nutritious food, because at the end of the day, when I consume food, it should nourish my body. If it's not nourishing my body, then I'm putting kind of, if I say, garbage in my body. So at the end of the day, at the value chain, at the end of the day, when I'm getting that product, even if it's from the supermarket, what is the quality? What is the nutritional quality of that food? I think as a nutritionist, as a professional, that would really be my concern.
All right. Yes. Mokami Jane here asks, at what stages then is food processed at this particular point? Or is genetically modified? That's what she asked. So I would want to assume probably she's asking at the point of planting, at the point of processing, or at the point of storage or anything.
The food, if you look at it, the food is modified at the point of the seed. So by the time the farmer is planting the crop, the seed is already modified. So if I am producing genetically modified rice, the seed that I'm going to use will be genetically modified. That's the point at which they are modified.
All right. Okay, well, and again, we have Daktari. Looks like we're not going to give up on him. And sadly enough, time is not so much on our side. But then again, we'd probably get a proper roundup from him. Daktari, yes, we're back to you.
Yes, well, I can tell you this has never happened before, and I suspect it's happening because some forces don't want this message to come out.
Money has been poured.
Emily has done a wonderful job. I mean, she's she's
done magic for us. I agree.
She has done magic for us, and really, the organic food is the natural food that our ancestors handed over to us. And of course, it starts with the seed. And remember, organic isn't just plants. Organic is also animals. And I dare say now, and this we could discuss maybe in other sessions, organic is soon also going to be non-organic with human beings. Hybridization is a natural selection process. Most of the seeds we are eating, most of the animals we are eating, process of that natural interaction between different seeds, I would say, of the same species. GMOs, good people, are absolutely something out of the ordinary. They're not only just abnormal in the sense that they are not natural. There is actually a human-made laboratory process of deliberately mixing genes across species sometimes. Sometimes even between animals and plants, like in the case of varieties of maize, we call PT maize, PT cotton, that would have never occurred in nature if they were not deliberately manipulated, man-made in the labs, and used such that if nature was around on its own, in a million years, those seeds would not have been produced. This is extremely fundamental, and therefore, hybrids, organic seeds, okay, but when you go to GMOs, it's a completely different ballgame. These are very unsafe seeds. They cause allergies, they cause DNA damage, they cause what we call teratogenicity, or changes in DNA that may result in cancers. And basically, quite frankly, they were designed to work with chemicals like glyphosate, which is also called Roundup weed killer. And from what we discussed in the session last time when we shared with a team of several of you, if it is possible, they're the kind of seeds that we would not welcome into our country because they are not only unsafe, They are also unhealthy for human beings. They are also a risk to the environment because they create a scenario where they don't mix well with other normal organisms.
Okay.
In the sense that they take over the ecosystem and reduce biodiversity and the ability for us to find the type of not only plants, but also animals, and even for us human beings. Now, this is something we will discuss later on with regard with the current COVID-19 scenario. It's a kind of seeds that, quite frankly, are unsafe, unhealthy, and not good for the environment, for the soil, and for human consumption. So like Emily said, I can only quickly add that maybe we plan another session because time is not on our side.
Yeah.
And just share that we Africans need to retain the safe, diverse, healthy, nutrient-rich foods that our ancestors, our grandmothers, our grandfathers ate all these years. Why? Because they understand our bodies, they provide health and nourishment. That's much, much more than GMOs can ever provide.
Wow,
So
thank you.
I'll pause here for now and say that let's carry on this discussion. Let's keep sharing. Let's discuss. Let's dialogue.
How about we have a deal that we have this discussion some more on Monday? Same time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, on Monday at exactly 8:10 we'll be having this conversation and expand it even more all the way to 9 a.m., right, Emily?
Absolutely.
I hope Dr. will be available. I hope Emily will be available. I had to put them on the spot so they do not say no. Yeah?
Yes.
So we promise you that you're going to get more information on this next Monday. That is on our nutrition segment. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Peter Mukaya, for the great insights. Dr. Peter Mukaya is the CEO of Organic Consumers and Alliance. And of course, thank you so much, Emily. Emily Wahome is a consultant nutritionist, or a nutritionist, just so to speak. Thank you so much for the great insight. We've picked something, and I'm sure it's something that we'd want to learn even more about. So we have a date next week on the same. And on that very note, like we say, time is not on our side. So we wind it up at that. Anything else you want to say?
Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much. I think what I would say and what I would want to tell my fellow Kenyans and anybody who is watching, food is medicine.
Yeah.
Make food your medicine. If you make food your medicine, you don't have to keep visiting the doctor. You don't have to keep feeling pain. Every time you put food on the plate, let it be food that is nourishing your body.
Right.
And most of the time, as you make decisions about your food, just pick food that is as natural as possible. You know, like if it's breakfast, choose the arrowroots, choose the sweet potatoes. That is natural food.
Right.
That is wholesome. Vegetables, a wide variety of vegetables. And you will be healthy. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And the little knowledge that I have on matters nutrition and see water is life, right?
Oh, yeah. Water is life. Water is life.
Let's see you again tomorrow. Thank you. My name is Linda Alela. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing.